My name's Dr. Rebeca Randell. I'm an Associate Principal Scientist at the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. At GSSI, we want to ensure that sports nutrition is relevant to all athletes. So one of my main roles is to work on the strategy for female athletes. So making sure that we're doing education, research, and innovation that's specific to that cohort. It's really important to know about fluid balance because during exercise we want to ensure that our athletes don't become significantly dehydrated. So by that we mean losing more than 2% of their body mass through fluid losses during exercise. If athletes become dehydrated, it can prevent them from performing at their best and could also cause some health implications. So we always want to make sure that they're well hydrated. So all humans lose fluids or bodily fluids in three main ways. So firstly through urine losses, as well as through feces that we lose in the body. And then also through respiration. So every time that we breathe, we actually lose a little bit of fluid as well. So every athlete will sweat differently. So how I might sweat would be completely different to how somebody else might sweat during exercise. And because of that, it's really important to know your individual sweat rate so that you can work out how much fluid you need to ingest during exercise. And fluid losses during exercise will also depend on lots of different factors. So it could be your genetics, but also how much clothing or equipment you're wearing, as well as the temperature and humidity that you might be exercising in. So it's really important to know your sweat losses so that you can get the right recommendations so that you don't become dehydrated. Every athlete will sweat differently. So for example, if you're doing a lower intensity exercise in a cool condition, you might sweat much less than when you're exercising and the intensity of that exercise is high, as well as when the temperature is really hot. So at GSSI, we've conducted a lot of research to look at sweat rates in athletes. And we see a whole range. So some athletes will sweat around 0.5 litres per hour, but we've also seen some athletes that will sweat more than 3 litres an hour. And that's typically those athletes that are larger in body size, also wearing a lot of equipment, and again, exercising in hot environments. So athletes can replace fluid losses in many different ways. So firstly, from consuming fluids, that might be by drinking water or by drinking a sports drink. Also our food that we intake, so a lot of foods that we have a high fluid content. So a lot of our fruits, or if we consume some soups, that will have a lot of fluid that will replace what we've just lost. Also, when we oxidize glucose in our body, we also produced a small amount of fluid, but not that significant. So the main ways that we can get fluid back or replace the fluid that we've lost is through fluid intake and through our food. So my fluid recommendations for athletes are firstly to start exercise in a hydrated state. And to know if you are hydrated or not, one way to check is by looking at your urine colour. So you want to make sure that it's pale yellow and not dark orange. If it is, the recommendations are to drink between 5 to 7 millilitres per kilogram of your body weight in a few hours before you start exercising. And then during exercise, it's really important to know your sweat rate so that you know how much you need to ingest during that exercise bout to prevent significant dehydration. And then after exercise, making sure you're drinking fluids throughout the rest of the day so that you can stay in that hydrated state, ready to go again the next day for when you might be exercising. Regardless of your activity level, it's really important to stay hydrated throughout the whole day. And this can help with many aspects in your life. So for example, your concentration levels, to make sure that you can stay concentrated at school or at work. Your reaction time, so being hydrated means that you have a quicker reaction time, which might help with activities such as driving, and also will help to ensure that you feel less fatigue throughout the day.